Welcome to the Intel Hub News Brief, uncovering the cold, hard truth that the corporate media just can't handle. A service of the IntelHub.com. Now, here's Popeye from Federal Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Intel Hub News Brief. Tonight, I am joined by Christina Consolo, a.k.a. the RadChick. Listeners that listen to my radio show have heard her before. She's been on as a guest multiple times. And on Orion, at the bottom of the hour, we play her 3-minute radiation fallout forecast every hour, every day, 7 days a week. So tonight, I'm going to have her on the podcast, and we're going to discuss what's been going on with the nuke plants in Southern California and Illinois releasing, both of them having what's called quote-unquote minor releases. And we're going to get into what's going on with the nuke plants in one of them in Nebraska, and there's another one that were flooded about 6 months ago with those massive floods we had. And you haven't heard much about that. So we're going to get into both of those. So Christina, welcome, and please feel free to take the reins and lead us where you want.
Thanks, Popeye. Yeah, it was kind of interesting because I noticed two mornings ago that the sunrise was yellow and pink and orange, and it's very unusual to have yellow in the sky. In fact, it's usually an indication of volcanic activity. But in this case, I found out a couple hours later that there was a plant that I'm directly downwind from that was venting radioactive steam after a cooling system failure and what turned out to be some broken pipes in the turbine room also. And this was in Byron, Illinois, which is just northwest of Chicago. And a concerning thing was that no alerts went out to people in Chicago that day or the next day. In fact, right now, as far as I know, the plant is still venting because they're unable to cool the fuel properly. And I've been doing the forecast for Orion, and I'm starting to include the nuke plant accidents as well because there's just so many of them. In fact, while I uploaded the last forecast that I did yesterday, in the meantime, there was another plant that went down in San Diego called San Onofre, and it turns out that they had almost an identical problem, a cooling system failure and broken pipes. And the NRC is investigating, and the EPA is supposedly out there taking measurements. And all we hear from them really is that they're not harmful, but they don't give us any indication of the concentration or the isotopes. And this was, in both cases, water that came in direct contact with the reactor rods. So it's very concerning, and people that live downwind of those areas should really keep a lookout for any kind of steam or smoke releases, and if you see anything like that, maybe have plans to get to another location for a few days until they get things under control. And it wasn't just those two plants, though. In the last couple of weeks, we've had incidents at other plants around the country. Brunswick in South Carolina had a problem and almost had a meltdown because someone didn't tighten the reactor cap on properly after they serviced the reactor and changed out the rods. And there's a whole story behind that, and just knowing how particular they are in terms of going through these processes because they're so important to be done properly. I really can't understand for the life of me how that even happened. And there was another East Coast plant that had a fire near the spent fuel pool on a catwalk about a week ago. And it took longer than 15 minutes to actually control the fire. But, these plants are all getting old. A lot of them are 25, 30 years old, and they have 10,000 parts to them, and the parts start to go bad and things break. And, when they do go down, in order to keep a meltdown from happening, they vent to the atmosphere. And that's pretty routine just in normal operating procedures, let alone when you have a problem, especially a problem where the fuel can't be cooled properly. So it's very concerning, and there's a lot of research that's been done to the populations and the childhood cancers and autism that occurs around these plants. The releases that they do continuously are definitely affecting people's health. And when they have problems like this without having any kind of firm data of exactly what's being measured in the air around those plants, we don't know how at risk people are. So I think it's always good just knowing how damaging it is to people's health, that you take precautions and treat it seriously, because it's one of the most serious effects that you can have is getting exposed to radioactive particles.
Yeah, because once you're exposed to hot particles, that's it, right?
Well, yeah, and in fact, even just inhaling one hot particle can give you lung cancer, and that's an adult. The EPA bases a lot of their tables on, what's an acceptable exposure rate based on a person that weighs 70 pounds. And for little kids, because of their size, because of the fact that they have so much cell division going on in their bodies, they're actually 20 to 100 times more susceptible to radiation exposure. And fetuses, pregnant women, their fetuses are 1,000 times more susceptible because of the rapid division of cells that's occurring. So it's very concerning, and those groups, those segments of the population should at the very least be warned to take precautions. But it is disturbing, and we're going to start including these reactor accidents in the forecast as well, so people downwind will have a heads up that maybe they should just stay inside for a day or two and really pay attention to what's going on, at the plant and around the plant.
What's going on in Nebraska with the flooded plants? Has there been any word about that?
Well, there were two plants in Nebraska, Cooper Nuclear and Fort Calhoun, that both flooded back in May of last year. And Obama had put a media blackout on what's going on around those plants. They evacuated people in a 10-mile radius. But we haven't heard anything really since then on what the status is, and it seemed to be right after the news had talked about the spent fuel pools actually being in the ground at those facilities, and the river water that was rushing through it, and then going back into the river system. It seemed like people were starting to really get alarmed, and then they kind of shut down all the news. So we haven't heard too much about that. And I know just from where I am in southeast Michigan, we've had some really high levels here recently, especially today. Today was the highest that I've had in the last 2 weeks, and it was about almost double hazmat levels inside of my house. And it was sunny. It was actually sunny, but I'm directly downwind from the Illinois plant that's having problems right now, and essentially the Nebraska plants as well. So we really don't know, is it coming from Fukushima or is it coming from someplace close by?
And that's the scary part is, some people think, well, Fukushima was in Japan, I don't have to worry. Well, okay, that's not true, but even if that were true, what about all the plants that are leaking here in the country, okay? If you don't want to worry about Fukushima, then perhaps you should worry about that. Christina, how can people mitigate their exposure to radiation? What ways do you know of that they can at least somewhat mitigate their exposure?
People can mitigate their exposure by basically taking better care of their health and eating whole foods and instead of processed foods or fast foods to keep your cells healthy and to allow your cells to repair any of the damage that's done, because your body has an amazing ability to repair a lot of the damage that can happen from radiation exposure. And the problem is, even the levels, even if they're minuscule, when they're coming at you in your tap water and in the air and possibly in the food that you're eating, and this is happening day after day after day after day, it builds up, and there aren't even tables that deal with that kind of exposure. If you make small changes in your daily life and pay attention to what you're putting in your body for the long term, since this is a threat that's going to be with us potentially forever. It's something we really need to get used to doing. All of our lives kind of changed when Fukushima happened, and a lot of people don't realize that, and it was something that I just started looking into because I have daughters, and I wanted to see how it might affect their fertility in the future, and just the more I learned about it, the more disturbed I became. But I also began to realize that there were really simple and easy things that people could do to mitigate the effects, and it basically means just living healthier and protecting your immune system and working anti-cancer foods into your diet, and making sure that you filter your water and that you limit animal products, because it does concentrate itself higher in animal products like milk and cheese and beef and so forth. So eat more plants and cut back on your dairy, and just take a much bigger interest in your health. There's many different supplements that you can take. Also, things like seaweed have been known to have very protective effects, although you want to make sure you're not buying seaweed from Japan. I would look into getting North Atlantic, Norwegian seaweed. And the people that lived around Hiroshima and Nagasaki that ate miso soup every day actually had a lower incidence of cancer than in other parts of Japan. There's very protective effects, and you just need to look into some of those foods, start working as many of them into your diet as possible. And once you get your family under control and you get everybody used to this new, healthier way of living, and then start sharing it with other people too, so that they know what's going on. Because without the media talking about it, the word just isn't getting out about this. And it could be months or years before people really find out how bad things are. And if you look at just the effects of what happens to people around Chernobyl, then we've got a big problem. And you multiply that by many, many, many times. And some researchers have said, I've heard, how many Chernobyls is it in relation to Fukushima, and the highest number I heard is between 300 to 1,000 times worse than Chernobyl. And so I actually worked on some math problems for a couple weeks, and I actually came out with a number that was more like 1,029 times worse than Chernobyl, and that was based on the amount of fuel that was on site. So we've got big problems, and in addition to that, we don't always know what the status is of plants around here. We don't get numbers from the EPA like we should. The EPA should be all over the Illinois site right now, finding out what the levels are, especially since that air is blowing right into Chicago and then throughout the rest of the Midwest. So
yeah, I agree. They're being lax in their duties, so it's left up to private citizens to educate themselves. Christina, give out your Facebook information and any related websites really quick before we go.
I have a YouTube channel where I have videos about mitigation and about some of the news stories and some of the levels that we've measured around the country. And I've uploaded some of these interviews, some of my interviews, and other people that have been trying to warn people about this situation so that they can take precautions. And the name of the YouTube channel is iChica ×4. And I also have a couple pages on Facebook, and if you type radiation into the Facebook search bar, it should pop right up. It's RadChick, Radiation Research and Mitigation. There's a few other websites, Mutation Watch, where people can upload, especially in the spring. I've already documented around my area back in July mutations in the oak trees around here and in some of the plants, and I suspect that we're going to see more of that in the spring. There's also a Radiation Watch page where people with Geiger counters post their data, and there's people from all over Australia, New Zealand. In fact, New Zealand had a huge plume that went through it yesterday. Australia had one about a week ago, And in the last 2 days, Finland, Norway, and Sweden all reported iodine-131 in the air in their country, and that was from samples taken for the last 2 weeks of January. So, where is it coming from? We don't always know, but the treatment's the same, whether it's from Fukushima or it's from a plant downwind of you, is just basically mitigation, healthier living, get enough sleep, and share this information with everyone you know, especially people that have little kids, so they can make these easy changes and protect their health, because we're going to be dealing with this for a really long time.
I agree, ladies and gentlemen. Time to educate and start to change your very way of living. I know I have, and we have to. We have no other choices now. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out Christina's YouTube site, her Facebook page, FukushimaFacts.com, all the other websites she mentioned, OrionTalkRadio.com, theintelhub.com, and FederalJack.com for all your latest breaking news and information about Fukushima and more. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.